Welcome to this explainer. You know, if you look at May 2026, it is this absolutely critical inflection point for the global economy. I want you to picture this for a second. A successful rocket launch, a massive Bitcoin crash, a really frustrated AI user base, an incredibly expensive smartphone camera, and a missing video game console. Now, at first glance, those seem like totally random, completely disconnected events, right? But when you look a little closer, they actually connect into one massive industry shift. We are literally witnessing the rewriting of the technological playbook in real time. So, by the end of our time together today, you're going to see exactly how these threads tie together and, more importantly, what they actually mean for the future of business, tech, and your own daily life. So here's what we're getting into today. We're going to walk through 5 massive case studies: Amazon's satellite war, the crypto exodus, Google's agile fix, Apple's camera bet, and Xbox abandoning the console. And then we'll pull back the curtain to reveal the hidden tech patterns driving every single one of them.
All right, kicking things off right in orbit with Section 1, Amazon's satellite war and the race against the FCC deadline.
Just a few days ago, an Atlas V rocket shot up and successfully deployed 29 of Amazon's LEO internet satellites into space. And look, this isn't just some cool science experiment. This marks a massive, highly calculated escalation in Amazon's direct challenge to SpaceX and their absolute dominance with Starlink. But here's the crazy part. The thing driving this hyper-aggressive launch schedule is a very real, very looming FCC deadline, July 30th, 2026. That is not just an arbitrary goal. It is a strict regulatory requirement. Amazon absolutely must activate half of its massive 3,236 satellite constellation in just 2 months, or they risk losing their spectrum allocations entirely. Poof, gone. So they are flat out racing the clock here, pushing their manufacturing and launch logistics to the absolute brink to meet this mandate.
Now, looking at the numbers, Amazon's uphill battle seems, well, pretty insurmountable. Starlink is sitting out there with over 6,000 active satellites and roughly 85% of the market share. Amazon? They're hovering around 200 satellites and maybe a 2% share. But do not count Amazon out. They bring some terrifying strategic advantages to this battlefield. The big one being their ability to bundle satellite internet directly with Amazon Web Services for their massive enterprise clients. Just imagine seamless, remote edge computing nodes powered by AWS, all connected via satellite. Plus, let's be real, they have the unlimited financial runway to just operate at a loss to steal market share. The democratization of space infrastructure is officially underway, and it's getting fierce. Bringing it back down to earth and straight into the financial markets, let's hit Section 2, the crypto exodus, and the institutional shift to AI.
Right now, we are seeing the sharpest, most undeniable divergence of 2026 between traditional equities and cryptocurrency. For months, everybody said institutional money was going to prop up crypto forever. But the actual data? It is telling a completely different, totally fascinating story. Just look at this number, $2.8 billion. That represents a historic 9-day capital hemorrhage out of U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs right between May 14th and May 29th. Institutional investors pulled $2.8 billion out in just over a week. And the absolute kicker here? This happened at the exact same time the S&P 500 posted its 9th consecutive week of gains and hit record highs. The money isn't leaving the market at all. It's rotating. Fast.
So what's really going on behind the scenes? Well, the contrast is pretty stark. On one hand, you've got Bitcoin, which is pitched as digital gold, but it has no cash flow, it's super volatile, and its core value is pretty abstract. On the other hand, you've got AI juggernauts like NVIDIA and AMD. Institutional portfolio managers have fiduciary duties, right? So they're actively looking at this and choosing the clear, profitable growth trajectories and literally billions in real profits from AI stocks over the speculative, non-yielding nature of Bitcoin. Basically, why stomach Bitcoin's massive swings when the companies actually building the AI infrastructure are handing you verifiable double-digit returns?
And speaking of the explosive power of AI, that brings us right to Section 3, Google's agile fix, and a totally unforced compute-based crisis. So, Google just stepped in it. They faced a massive wave of user backlash over this new compute-based usage limit system for their Gemini AI. Instead of just counting how many messages you sent, they started measuring the actual computational resources a prompt consumed, and it backfired spectacularly, instantly exhausting the quotas of paying Gemini Advanced subscribers with just 1 or 2 complex video analysis requests. Google basically made 3 classic product management blunders here. First, totally insufficient user testing. They treated their 900 million monthly active users like beta testers instead of doing a staged rollout. Second, Really poor communication. They completely failed to explain how this new compute system worked to the people actually paying them. And third, zero quota visibility. They completely hid the consumption data. It was like your cell phone carrier charging you for data, but absolutely refusing to tell you how much you've used until your internet just suddenly cuts off.
But here's the silver lining, and honestly, this is a masterclass for any business out there. Google turned around and fixed the whole thing in 48 hours, a complete masterclass in organizational agility. Despite being this massive global tech giant, they rapidly resolved the bugs, they capped how much a single prompt could consume so one video wouldn't drain your whole day, and they made failed requests free. The days of annual slow-moving product cycles are totally dead, because if a giant with 900 million users can pivot and overhaul a core pricing mechanism in just 2 days, well, your business needs to be exactly that responsive to survive.
Let's move from software over to physical hardware. For Section 4, Apple's camera bet and the variable aperture.
While the whole world is obsessing over software and AI, Apple is out here taking a massive, totally contrarian risk. They are voluntarily absorbing a staggering 50% cost increase just to bring a mechanical variable aperture camera to the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro. We're talking about physical, mechanical innovation in a digital world. And as this timeline lays out, the 2026 variable aperture is really just phase one of a deeply ambitious 4-year roadmap. They are adding physical moving parts to a phone lens to get real DSLR-level depth of field. Why? Because they are methodically designing this hardware to completely replace a $2,000 professional mirrorless camera. Apple is heavily betting that physical innovation still matters for premium positioning, and they really need this leap to justify their ecosystem's high margins.
But what does this actually mean for you and me? Well, the business implication for the consumer is pretty harsh. Because of all this mechanical complexity and that 50% jump in camera manufacturing costs, we could see the starting price of the iPhone 18 Pro push to an eye-watering $1,349. Apple is actively testing consumer loyalty here. In an era where most phone upgrades feel, let's be honest, incredibly incremental, they're betting that you'll be willing to pay a massive premium for hardware excellence.
Now, in stark contrast to Apple doubling down on physical hardware, let's look at Section 5. Xbox abandons the console and their platform-agnostic pivot. Microsoft's Xbox is pivoting entirely away from that physical box sitting under your TV. Just take a look at this quote from Matt Booty, the Xbox Chief Content Officer. It's a total bombshell. He flat out confirmed that their upcoming June showcase is going to completely skip any news about the next-gen Project Helix console. This unambiguous statement reveals a fundamental shift. Microsoft is transforming from a traditional hardware manufacturer into a completely platform-agnostic gaming ecosystem. The physical box? It simply doesn't matter to them anymore.
And the underlying math explains exactly why this pivot is happening. It's actually pretty simple. There's a hard, absolute ceiling of about 200 million console gamers globally. But there are over 3 billion mobile and PC gamers out there. By prioritizing subscriptions like Game Pass and cloud gaming over selling physical boxes, Microsoft is pulling a Netflix. They are adopting a model that radically expands their addressable market, essentially turning the console into an optional, premium accessory rather than a rigid requirement to enter their ecosystem.
All right, let's pull it all together in Section 6, the 2026 tech patterns. Time for a little synthesis.
So we've covered a ton of ground today. We've got a satellite space war, a massive crypto crash as money flees to AI, an AI bug fixed in a record time, an insanely expensive phone camera, and a missing video game console. But what actually ties all this together? Well, these 5 meta patterns right here are the secret to understanding the next decade. Space is becoming accessible, democratized infrastructure. Finance is bifurcating, choosing clear utility over mere speculation. Our culture absolutely demands rapid iteration, like 48-hour fixes. We are seeing a renaissance in hardware innovation, fighting back against the software monopoly. And ultimately, the future is platform agnostic. What these stories reveal is that technology isn't just about the products you build anymore. It is entirely about your strategic agility, building those recurring revenue ecosystems, and having an uncompromising understanding of what your customers actually value. So as you look at the bold, paradigm-shifting choices made by Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Apple just this month, I want to leave you with this. In an era of such rapid disruption, how will these exact same meta patterns reshape your own industry before this year is even over? Is your strategy agile enough to survive? Because the tech landscape isn't just changing, it is accelerating. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll catch you next time.